In this lesson, we are going to start out by reviewing. So the first question, P of 2, this, remember, is our input variable. That's our x. So you're going to go over to 2 on the x-axis and find where the y is, and so that would be 4. P of 0, again, that's my input. So you go to 0, you go up there, you get 1. So P of x equals 2. This is right here is my y. I feel like it's easier to write the ordered pair and put the y in the right spot. So if y is 2, that's anywhere in this line. So where do we find the graph? Right there. So that would mean x is equal to 1. So 1 is my answer right there. Okay. The next one, P of x, or y, is equal to 8. So again, the y value is 8. So you go up here to y is 8. We're looking for the graph. It's right there. So at 3. Okay. Let's go to the next part of this. Number 5, an arithmetic sequence is defined recursively by a sub 1. Take a hall pass, Kim. A sub 1 is equal to 15, so that's where we're starting. And I find it helpful to just start by writing the sequence as it's given. So 15 is the first term, and it says we're going to take the term that comes before and we're going to subtract 4 from it. So the next term would be 15 minus 4. And then minus 4. And then minus 4, dot, dot, dot. So I feel like it's good to have a picture of what that sequence looks like before we go and answer the rest of the questions. So the first question is write the first 5 terms of the sequence. So it turns out that you've already got that. And so I just need one more. So there we go. There's the first 5 terms. Write an explicit formula for the sequence. So we're going to say a sub n is equal to, all right, how do you write this type of a sequence in a formula? Do you remember? Michael?
Isn't it a sub 1 minus or plus d?
So in this case, since plus d is minus 4.
D is a negative number.
Right.
And then in parentheses n minus 1.
Yes, and you guys, the good news is you can leave it just like that. You do not have to simplify it, okay? Now, if you did simplify it, okay, if you multiplied everything out, then you would get slope-intercept form. So now this is telling you a sub 0 instead of a sub 1. So if you simplified that explicit formula and you get it down into slope-intercept form, then it's telling you a sub 0. So the way you can tell the difference between the two, if you have the n minus 1, then this is a sub 1. If you don't have an n minus 1 in there, like in a parentheses, then that means we're dealing with a sub 0. So we're going to use that today to be able to tell the difference. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, now find the 45th term. This kind of a formula right here is great to find the 45th term. So a sub 45 is equal to 15 minus 4 times 44, because 45 minus 1. Get your calculator. 15 minus 4 times 44. So who can tell me what that is? Because I don't know. Yes?
Negative 165.
Everybody okay with that? 161. Did you do 45 minus 1 or just 45? Yeah, so negative 161, I guess. Yeah, because it sounds like you went one more term. So 161. Okay. All right, so is everybody feeling okay about what was asked right there? What we're going to do today, we're going to go and we're going to look at our formulas or our sequences, but we're going to look at them from a different perspective. So at the bottom of this page that we're on right now, we have got a reminder of what the formulas look like. And so I want you guys to make sure that you've got that handy, okay? So just to review, this is arithmetic, and then this is geometric. Notice that right here, like I was saying earlier, a sub 1, n minus 1, a sub 1, n minus 1. Okay? One of the main things that I'm going to be asking you in your quiz next time is to distinguish between the correct formula and incorrect formula. And I might throw an a sub 0 in there to throw you off. So you've got to be aware of that. Okay? All right, so let's take a look at what kind of questions we're going to see today. So it says, given a specific term, and the common difference, or the constant ratio, use the explicit formula to solve for a sub 1. So in these problems, you're not going to know the first term. So I'm going to tell you, in this case, I'm going to tell you the 52nd term and what d is, and you tell me what the first term is. So essentially, you need to know how to use your formula to work backwards. So let's think about our formula. It's a sub n is equal to a sub 1 plus d times n minus 1. So this is just a straight up substitution. What do I know that I could substitute? Well, I know a sub 52, which means n is equal to 52, right? So I could do 52 minus 1 because that's in, which would mean this is a sub 52, which you guys, I know what a sub 52 is. It is 450 equals, do I know a sub 1? That's what I'm trying to find. So I'm going to put a sub 1 because I don't know it yet. And the common difference is 8, so plus 8. You guys, I only have one variable. I can solve that equation. So first off, does everybody see how I set that up? This is my a sub n, and n happened to be 52, so 450. I put the 52 in there also. This is my d. And so now let's just simplify and solve. So 450 is equal to a sub 1 plus 8 times 51. Okay, so what is 8 times 51? 408. So I'm going to subtract 408. And that leaves me with a sub 1 is equal to what? 42. There's your first term. So you didn't have to like subtract 8 51 times. That would be terrible, okay? Even if you did have a calculator. But that's how you would do that. So you just use the equation to work backwards to what it is that you need to find. So let's try another one. Go to number 7. Okay, this one is geometric because it says r is equal to. Okay, can you guys figure out how you would set that up? Like using the same idea? So think about your formula. I've got it written up there at the top of the screen. So put in the things that you know. And remember, you should only have one variable at the end, or else you're not going to be able to solve it. Okay, who can give me the equation that I'm going to write? So how do I set this up?
9,375 equals A1.
A sub 1?
Yeah, A sub 1, sorry.
Okay.
Times negative 5 to the power of 10 minus.
Okay, very good. That's exactly how you set this up. Okay? Now, when you're setting it up, I don't care if you want to write 9 instead of 10 minus 1. That's fine. Okay? But how do you solve for a sub 1? So on a problem like this is where people get a little bit thrown off because they're like, oh, what do I do for that? You guys just do negative 5. This is to the 9th power. You can just divide by negative 5 to the 9th power. Just let your calculator worry about what number that is. And so get your calculator. All you have to do is do 9375 divided by parentheses, negative 5 in parentheses to the 9th power. Close your parentheses, close your parentheses. And you get a sub 1. Okay, so Elizabeth, tell me what your answer is.
Negative 0.0048.
Okay, did everybody else get that number too? Yes. Okay, so it sounds like most of you did. So that seems like, so Elizabeth said that seems like a weird number. So what we can do is we can say, all right, so to find a sub 10, if I take a sub 1, which is negative 0.0048, and I multiply it by negative 5 to the 10 minus 1 power, does it work? Does it come out to be 9,375? So you can check it. You can make sure. Okay? All right. All right, so for 8 and 9, I want you guys to try. So first you need to know, is it arithmetic or geometric? How do you know? You are finding a sub 1, so set up your formula so that you'll be able to find the a sub 1. And then we'll go over it in just a second. Okay, so I've set up both of these equations. Here's how you should have set them up. And so I start with what the a sub whatever it is, and I put that in. And then the a sub 1 I don't know, so that's where my variable goes. R is right there, and then I do the 8 minus 1. That's where I got the 7. Okay, so that's how I got that. And then to solve this, you guys, all you have to do is just, it says a sub 1 times something, so just divide by that something and let your calculator do that business, okay? So just type it in, 458,752 divided by parentheses 4 to the 7th power, and then you'll get a sub 1 equals, and who can tell me what they got for a sub 1? What do we have? Jessica? 28. Everybody agree with that? Okay. So if I stop and think, okay, if I took 28 and I multiplied it by 4, and I multiplied it by 4, and I multiplied it by 4, does it sound reasonable that I'd have a really big number, like 458,000, whatever? Okay. Sounds reasonable. Now, if this was a test or a quiz, and you wanted to check it, which would not be a bad idea, what you would do is you would say a sub 8 is equal to the first term times 4 to the 8 minus 1 power. Put that in your calculator. You better get this number. If you don't, then your a sub 1 is wrong. Okay? And that's also a way that you can check, like if you had if you just put 8 there instead of 7, that's going to give you the wrong answer too. So That's a way that you can check the formulas that you're writing. Okay, let's look at number 9. So again, I set it up with a sub 87 right there. The 87 minus 1 is how I got the 86. The d is going to go right there. So I'm going to add 12 times 86. I don't even care what it is. I'll just let the calculator worry about it. And I'm going to add 12 times 86. So a sub 1 is equal to 34 plus 12 times 86. So what is that? What is it? 1066. Do you guys agree with that? Okay. Well, it's 87 terms down the road. So we're starting, a sub 37 is 34. And so if we go backwards by adding 12, adding 12, adding 12, adding 12, 87 times, you know, that's a long ways to go. Now you could check it because you could say, is a sub 87 equal to 1066 minus 12 times 87 minus 1? Check and see if it's right. You have a really easy way to check this. Question?
I didn't get that.
What did you type in your calculator?
I did. Oh, never mind. I didn't do the plus 34.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you got to add that 34. The 12 times 86 by itself won't give you enough. You got to be starting from the right place.
I put that in and not 34, so.
Okay, then it's good. All right, let's go to the next question. Okay, so for number 10, I'm giving you the first 4 terms of the sequence, and you need to come up with the equation for it. Okay? Okay, we're coming up with the recursive formula. So you guys, we know that it has 3 parts. You already know part 3, right? So part 3 is n is greater than or equal to 2. And part 1 is a sub 1, and we already know that one. Easy. The only thing you have to do is figure out what's happening in between. So what's happening every time? Adding 9. So you're going to say a sub n is equal to the term that came before it plus 9. Done. That's it. That's how hard it is to write a recursive formula. Yes? Oh, okay. All right, let's try number 11 then. Okay, so you know it has 3 parts, 1, 2, and 3. So write down what you know, because there's a couple of those parts that are really easy. Question?
It's okay if we write out the long way, like kind of as an equation instead of step by step?
You mean like all in one line instead of like 1, 2, 3? Yes, absolutely. Just separate it with semicolons if you're doing that. Okay? All right. So a sub 1 is what? 100. And the last part is always the same. We already talked about y. And so what's happening every time, you guys? This one's a little bit harder to figure out. Multiplies by 0.8. And you can do that by checking by 80 divided by 100, you get 0.8. Then if you do 80 times 0.8, do you get 64? And 64 times 0.8, do you get 51.2? So you can check that and make sure. But if you're multiplying, it's going to be geometric. So we're going to say a sub n is equal to a sub n minus 1 times 0.8, and that's it. So you're just multiplying instead of adding. So writing a recursive formula, whenever you see that, you should go, yay, because it's so easy. All right? Okay, now we're turning it around. Now I'm going to give you an explicit formula. I want you to write a recursive formula. Oh, question?
Do you want us to write 4 and...
No, you can just write n is greater than or equal to 2. Okay, so for the explicit formula, figure out what the recursive formula is. So first off, you know it's 3 parts, okay? I like to start with that because it kind of gives me a framework for what to write in there. So if I know that there's 3 parts to a recursive formula, it makes it a lot easier for me to kind of figure out what I'm supposed to do. Can you guys look at this equation, the explicit formula, and tell what a sub 1 is? What is it? 4. Can you tell what d is? D is 16, and so that means I do what every time? I add 16, so I'm going to say a sub n is equal to a sub n minus 1 plus 16. Done. So we use the explicit formula, peel out the parts that we need, and then put them in a different formula. That's all. So you guys try it for number 13. I would recommend starting with the framework of steps 1, 2, and 3. You know what they are, and 2 of them should be pretty easy to do. Then you just have to figure out what's happening every time. Okay, who can tell me what a sub 1 is? What is a sub 1? Kimberly. A sub 1 equals 22. All right, who can tell me what's happening every time? What's happening every time? Michael?
It
And that's my r, right? So when I write my formula, I write a sub n equals a sub n minus 1. You see it always starts the same. And then we're going to say times 0.75, and that's all. No exponents or anything. Okay, because you take the term that comes before it, multiply by 0.75, that's how you get the next one. Okay? All right, again, I just have this up here to remind you what the formulas are. So I'm giving you a recursive formula. You write the explicit formula. So looking at the recursive formula, there's a sub 1. I can tell that we're adding 1 every time, so d is equal to 1. So can you write the explicit formula? Here's how it goes right there. So all I have to do is just plug in the right numbers. A sub n is equal to a sub 1 is negative 15 plus 1 times n minus 1. And there's your explicit formula. You do not need to simplify it beyond that. You're fine with that. That's an explicit formula. If you did simplify it all the way, it would come down to slope-intercept form, and that would tell me the y-intercept. That would tell me a sub 0 instead of a sub 1. I want you to leave it like this. If we're talking about arithmetic and geometric sequences and explicit formulas, then I'm expecting to see that. So on your quiz and on your test, that's what I'm expecting to see. Okay? Is that your question?
So you do have to put the 1 in there, even though it's...
You don't, okay, you don't, on that case, you wouldn't have to put the 1 in there. I like to put it in there because it makes it very clear. If you didn't put the 1 in there, it would look like it was kind of unfinished. Like, you're like, why are the parentheses there? And then why don't you just simplify it? And then you'd have the a sub 0. And so you don't have to, no, but I would say like in this, I'm just kind of expecting that to be there. But yeah, if you had it without the 1, that wouldn't be wrong. Okay, let's take 15. What's happening to this one every time, you guys? Multiply by 6. Okay, so we're going to write our formula. It's going to be a geometric in nature right there. So we're going to say a sub n is equal to a sub 1, I know it, times 6, and then I have to put an exponent. What's my exponent? N minus 1. Okay? All right. Okay, next we've got this tree, and these numbers are showing how it's growing. Okay? All right. So this is a sequence, and so the first thing we want to figure out is it arithmetic or geometric? So can you guys look at that and like see right off that it's not arithmetic? Right, okay. So the question is it geometric? Probably, since those are the only two options, but let's just make sure, okay? Okay, so we need to figure out if it's geometric, what is the ratio? So what is it? Who's got it? Dale? 1.1, so that means if we take 10 times 1.1, 11 times 1.1, 12 times 1.1, or 12.1, does that work? Do you guys all agree that that works? Okay, so it's geometric. The constant ratio is 1.1. What is a sub 1? Those are pretty easy questions right there at the beginning. Write a recursive formula for this. So the recursive formula, that's got the 3 parts. So write that up for me. So on this recursive formula, I'm just going to write it like the long ways, like somebody was asking a minute ago if you could just write it like that. I'm just going to separate it with semicolons. And in the middle part, that's the rule part, and that's where you take the term that came before it times 1.1. Remember, there's no exponents on that part of it. And then n is greater than or equal to 2. Okay, the explicit formula, it's geometric, so remember how that goes. A sub n is equal to a sub 1 times 1.1 to the what power? N minus 1. Please don't put n, because that means that 10 is a sub 0. Okay? All right, so when do you guys think formula C would be more useful, and when would D be more useful? Donna?
So I think that C would be more useful when you know like the one before.
Yep.
And
So in case you didn't hear her, she said C would be more useful when you know the one right before. Okay?
and then the formula would be better if you don't know the number that comes before the one you're looking for.
So if we don't know the number that comes before, like if we just want to go straight to find out how tall is a tree in 100 years, we would want to use the explicit formula, okay? So really people are not really going to be using the recursive formula unless you know that important piece of information, which that's not really something that we necessarily need, but we could just say a sub 100 equals, and we could go straight to a sub 100. Anyway, that's a good answer on that. Okay, if the pattern continues, how tall will the tree be in 12 years? Round to the nearest 10th. So you're going to find a sub 12 using your formula. So again, which formula are you going to use? So find that, and it's going to be how many feet rounded to the nearest 10th. So round to the nearest 10th, are you guys getting 28.5? Yeah. Okay, so about 28.5 feet. All right, let's go to the next one. This is a picture sequence, and it says write a sequence representing the number of triangles in the pattern shown. So we're talking about the congruent triangles. So how many triangles are in the first pattern? 3, and then how many? 5, and then how many?
7.
Okay, do you guys see the pattern then? Okay, can you write an explicit formula? And then write a recursive formula? And then on part D, explain which one of those you would use to find the 50th term and tell why you would use that one. And then how many are in the 50th picture? All right, who can give me the explicit formula? What is the explicit formula? Let me get a hand I haven't had yet. Jordan?
A sub n equals 3 plus 2 times n minus 1.
Perfect. Very good. Okay, recursive formula. I'm just going to go ahead and write the first part and the third part, and so I just need somebody to give me what's in the middle. So who can give me that one? Tanner.
AN equals
A what?
Sorry, A sub n.
Okay.
Equals A sub n minus 1. Parentheses n minus 1.
Like that?
Nope, I did some.
Nope. I think you're mixing up the explicit and the recursive formula. So remember with the recursive, you're just taking the one that came before and doing what? Adding to. Yeah. I think you were just mixing up those two and blending them together or something.
Oh, yeah,
So,
I just added
yeah.
n minus 1.
Okay. All right. So you guys, which formula are you going to use? Layla, which one are you going to use? Okay, explicit. And we could use the recursive if we knew what? The 49th term, but we don't, so there's no reason worrying about it. And so to find the 50th term, so how many triangles are in the 50th picture? How many? Say it louder. 101?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. And it's a story problem, so we better label it. Okay? All right, we just got a couple more like this. So basically you're deciding, is it arithmetic or geometric, and then write the formulas for them. So Andrea's training for a bike race. On the first day, she is riding 8 miles. So that's day 1, 8 miles. Then she increases by 1.5 miles each day. So what kind of a sequence is that going to be? Arithmetic, because we're adding 1.5, add 1.5, add 1.5. So quickly get the first 5 terms, so the first 5 days. Now remember what we've said in the past about math is only representing reality for a certain window of time. Obviously, Andrea can't keep doing this indefinitely, okay? So even if it was arithmetic or geometric, it wouldn't matter. Like at some point, you have to stop. So anyway, that's just so we know. We're just looking at a certain window of time. So we're talking about if she's riding a bike on the 35th day, how many miles would she go? All right. So who can tell me what the explicit formula is? So let me get a new hand here. Looking for new hands. McKinley.
A sub n equals 8 plus 1.
Perfect. Good. Okay. What is the recursive formula? So I've got a couple parts that I'm needing here. So again, a new hand, please. So somebody hasn't answered yet. Preston?
I may be wrong, but a sub 1 equals 8, comma, a sub n equals a sub n minus 1 plus 1.5, comma, for n greater than or equal to 2.
You did it just right. Okay. All right. How many miles did you ride the 35th day? So how many was that? 59 miles. Now that is possible to do. Okay. I personally haven't done it. My son-in-law has done it. But so that still could be in the realm of reality, okay? So anyway, but pretty soon she's probably going to be done. So anyway, okay, let's go to the last one. Ben has a goal of increasing his sales by 10% every year. The first year his sales were 1,800. So what you want to do is you want to start with the sequence. Figure out what's going to happen next. So if he's going to increase by 10%, does that mean the next year he's going to get 180? What do you multiply by? You're going to multiply by 1.1. The mistake that people make on this is they do 10% of 1,800 is 180. Okay, you just lost 90%. You didn't gain anything, okay? So you need to make sure you're going the right way about this. So do 1,800 times 1.1 times 1.1. And so, okay, that's how you're going to get the first 5. And also with money, you're going to have to round to the nearest penny. So after a couple, you're going to need some decimals. Okay, an explicit formula. We're moving along now so we can be done. So Donna, what's the explicit formula?
A sub n equals 1,800 1.1 to power n minus 1.
Perfect. Okay, in a recursive formula, a sub 1 is obviously 1,800. And obviously we have the n is greater than or equal to 2. So who can tell me the middle part of this? So middle part. What's it say? Is anybody new hands out there? Tyson.
A sub n equals a sub n minus 1
Times
times 1,800.
1,800? Is that what you want to do every time, is multiply by 1,800? What are you going to multiply every time? Yeah, 1.1. There we go. Okay, so you want to just double check and make sure that what you have, like that's, you're not putting the wrong number in somewhere. And then in his 12th year, if this continues, in his 12th year, how much money will he make? So you're going to plug it in your calculator to the 12 minus 1 power, so to the 11th power. And so you guys, we're going to do this to the nearest penny because we're talking about money and it doesn't say to do anything different. So to the nearest penny, what is that? Layla? 1,000 what? You guys all agree with that? Okay, awesome.